Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's June 30th, 2020. It's been 1 week since our last garden tour update. And so what I thought I'd do is put the helmet cam on and we'll take a look through the each of the west, the central, and the eastern garden plots. See how things are going. Here we go. So we're starting off over here in the western garden plot up against the building. There were a lot of weeds in here. Thea came through and weeded the lupine along this edge. Just a few weeds in here. This doesn't have a drip tape for these. I should give them a watering if we don't get rain this afternoon or tomorrow, because we're not expecting rain after those couple of days. We just may get some hit or miss thunder showers. We were really fortunate to get 0.72 inches of rain over this last week, bringing us up to a total of 2.23 inches over this last 8-week period. Last 2 months, 2.23 inches. So that's 1 1/8 inch per month basically. So the food forest needed it badly, the lawn needed it. So a lot of heat in here. It's been an unusually hot season. Right now we got some overcast and it's only in the lower 80s. So the Acer red cabbage are doing pretty well. We did replace a couple Acer red cabbage and cauliflower over here as well. We'll see how well they do. You know, they have taken some stress with all the heat that they've had, but I guess I'm not too depressed with how well they're doing at this point. We're disappointed with how well they're doing at this point, given the exceptionally hot and dry season we've had so far. So Scarlet red runner beans doing really well. Have to do some more securing of them, make sure they go climb up the trellis. They're doing really well on each side here. Along in here we have the cantaloupe. Cantaloupe seem to be doing quite well. I've got some weeding to do in here. The honeydew are doing great as well, all along in here. And again, more of the scarlet red runners all in this area. Over here is where we had potted plants over last season. And of the potted plants, the Thornless Blackberries, what they did was during the winter months, they went ahead, or during the fall months, they went ahead and sent their roots down through the pot, the holes in the pot, and established a good root system below the wood chips here. No soil here, just wood chips, and they're doing pretty darn good. So what I'll do over here is I'll come through, strip off some of the leaves off of these single stems coming up, just leave the couple top leaves here, put a pot over it, put some soil in it, let them continue to grow, and they'll throw roots into the pots, and I'll have some extra thornless blackberry plants as well. So we got probably a dozen here that I could utilize. Over here the blue Hubbard squash are doing really well. I've got to get in here and do some more weeding. But the blue Hubbards, man, they are really taking off now. They're getting a good footing. They like the drip tape. This is the first time I've grown them with any irrigation at all. And hopefully I'll be able to train them to go over in this side of the garden. The blueberry bushes, fortunately, we were able to get off most of the flowers and berries from the blueberry plants. So they've been able to throw up a lot of good vegetative growth and hopefully good root growth as well. One plant we did lose since last week. It got a little bit too hot. There are only 2 leaves on that one, but that's how it goes. So we'll just keep getting these as healthy and as much vigor as possible, at least through this year and potentially next year as well, so we get some good size to them, so that I can get the area out back at the place where I just posted a video on removing the hugelkultur mounds and looking at the soil, how quickly do trees decompose. Over here the honeyberries are looking really good. Up against the fence are the scarlet red runner beans, and along there I've got a couple of weeds I've got to pull out of here, but real happy with how well the growth has been with the honeyberries. They like their drip tape, obviously. Whenever you're growing beds this high off the soil surface, it can be a challenge, especially on the outside of this kennel panel here. Let me show you. So I didn't have enough wood chips, and I still don't have enough wood chips since I'm using them in other places. But one of the things that would be really beneficial here is to put a little more soil right up against the chain link that's right here, and that'll help to prevent moisture, and then put wood chips on the outside of that. So really just build this up again, because this keeps settling gradually over time. But this exposed surface on the side here not just allows for weed development to sap some of the nutrients out of the compost that's below there, but what it also does is it creates a problem with drying out a little bit too early. So this area could use more, wouldn't need as much moisture. The plant roots would be able to retain more moisture if I could have soil or wood chips right up to this level. So that's something I'll work on. I also want to use this area for propagating more plants, like we've been stooling or mounding all of these gooseberries here on the outside, and they're doing pretty darn well. But while they're at this stage, I could lay these down again and get several more plants out of them. So that would be wonderful. Since we didn't get to harvest these yet, I'm going to go ahead and probably in the next week trim these off and use them for seed for other spots in the food forest. Deer flies are a bit of a pain in the butt lately. Let's go over to the central garden plot and see how things are going there. Those darn deer flies this season are getting a little bit of a pain. So the second growth of the comfrey is coming up at this point. I got a little mungwort, ragweed over there rather, so that's okay. This area of comfrey I'll go ahead and use for propagating and placing out into the rest of the food forest as well. There's so many areas we want to use it. The corn has been doing really well. Pretty happy with that. Thea came through and got all the little weeds up from in between some of the corn plants. And again, it looks like the roots are going to be fine. Airplane's going over right now. I think the roots, one of the things I mentioned before, I used to use all mats that we burn holes in them, and I used to do 2 rows of the corn and have the holes burned in them. Even though I would have holes that are approximately this big, the corn would actually go ahead and start sending roots down through the weed mat, which really made it a nightmare to deal with. My goal this season, by using the weed mats up close like they are, not so tight on the corn but tight on the other plants, but one of my goals is to come through, pull the weed mats back, disconnect the drip tape that's down there, and then just go right down, flail mow it, put those nutrients back into the soil, cover it back up for the winter time, and let all the microorganisms feed on the corn stalks themselves. We'll see if that happens. Thea came through and weeded the little bits of weeds that were started underneath the tomato cages. They have been doing really well. I'm pretty happy with how all the tomatoes are doing. Probably the lower leaves need to come off on those. Bell peppers are looking really good as well. Pretty happy with how well they're doing. The broccoli looking good. I'm sorry, those are banana peppers over here. They're looking good. These are the bell peppers over here, also looking good. The little tiny curly kale, put those in really late, and boy, they've really started doing some significant growth. So we could start harvesting some of these, which are still small leaves, but these are, when they're this size, man, they are super tender. Absolutely delicious, make fantastic kale chips. They aren't as bitter or as hard when they're this young, so it's really nice. Sweet potatoes are doing really well. No more leaks in this garden, no more leaks in the western garden plot either. And here's an example of one of the burn holes that we used to use those all the time, and I put cardboard underneath this. That's really good. Let's go over to the eastern garden plot. Tender sweet kale. Now I haven't been doing any mowing. I don't like mowing when there's going to be a drought or the continuation of a drought. The other time I really hate mowing is when there's bird's foot trefoil, which is some right here, but I don't have that much in here, or the white clover. And you can see the white clover is going to seed now. And we have this throughout different places in the food forest, and that's awesome. The nettles I could go ahead and pull off. The mungwort, the ragweed, all of those I could pull out as well. I'm going to have to do some weeding here inside of the tunnel area. The wood chips, even though we put it in over a foot deep, have really been breaking down. Now it's mostly just a little bit of wood chips on the surface and lots of decent soil underneath the area. The Scarlet red runner beans are doing really well. There are a few weeds, as I can see over here right now. Dang it. So the leeks are looking pretty good. I think the birds keep coming down and grabbing some of these leeks. I don't know why. But we'll have plenty of leeks, more than enough for all our dehydration and all. We did lose some of the oriental, so we have the flea beetles taking a hit at them and the pill bugs. But fortunately, hopefully tomorrow I'll shoot a video and our living fence line, and I have some extra eggplants over there that we can replace over into this area. These are the Black Beauty eggplants along in here. Little lamb's quarter stuck in there as well. And so pretty happy with how well they're doing. The flea beetles get at them when they're real young, but then they end up giving up on them. The jalapeno peppers doing pretty darn well as well. I don't know why some of them are smaller than others, but that's just the way that it works. The blue potatoes, or Irish type blue potatoes, loaded with anthocyanins. You can actually see a little bit of the blue in the pigment of the leaves here when they first emerge. We've gone ahead and we've hilled these twice now. I think we're good for the hilling them up. We'll just let them progress. There are some rocks and sticks in here, unfortunately, but they'll get to the point where they just cover everything up, and then later on I'll pull out the rocks and sticks when it's time to harvest them. The asparagus seeds seem to be doing so-so. I mean, these are ones that I basically killed before. They're probably getting a little too wet right now with 2 irrigations. We had such a drought there. Now we've had a couple of days where there's been a little bit of rain. The dill's looking good. Got to weed this area. Love purslane. Tastes great, but it really can take over the area. So the eggplants, the leeks, some of the sage in here is looking pretty good. Cats have been getting in here, using the area. The lettuce is still bolting, but there's still delicious tender leaves on it. So Thea's still harvesting this every couple of days. The volunteer lemon balm are doing fine. The lupine are all done flowering now. Pretty soon we're going to have to collect the seed. The butternut squash, you know, still not looking great, and I'm not sure why they aren't looking so good. Whereas the cucumbers are looking very good along in here. Darn spearmint keeps working its way over in here. love it, but love the smell of it too, but it's a bit much. Got to get this trellised up. The cucumbers here. Sage is really looking good along the edge here, down in here. We just got to get this locked up and get a few of those extra weeds out of there. I still haven't come back here and done a second weeding. I need to do a second weeding over in this area. The red onions are looking really nice. The chili peppers are looking good. These are extra cauliflower right here, and lots of basil going down in this area. Really been fortunate. These been keeping a pretty good eye on the strawberry beds. Harvesting quite a few strawberries. We're probably just about done with the harvesting strawberries at this point. Here we've got the extra banana peppers. Need to come in here and use our short-handled wire weeder over in here. Yes, handsome boy. The kidney beans are doing great. Since we have such good luck and they're so easy to harvest, we'll be planting more kidney beans next season out back where the hugelkultur system that I just disassembled is located. In here we have the honeydew and the cantaloupe. On this side, I'm going to either put down some cardboard and a little more wood chips if I get some soon, but I have to weed this again or put a weed mat down. And the watermelon, some of them are heading that way. We'll have to get them to come out this way. They're all taking a good foothold. I'm pretty happy with how they're all looking. So the melons all look really good at this point. The beans are doing fairly well. The squashes are looking good with the exception of the butternuts. And we've always had good luck with butternut squash. I'm not sure why things haven't worked out that well. This is the area where the lavender, thyme, and sage are planted. So some of them didn't make it during the drought time, and I didn't get to watering them quick enough. And again, there's always the little weeds popping up around here. And the iris bed, I just haven't gotten back to. I'm embarrassed. Looks terrible. Well, that's a walk through the gardens at this point, at the end of June. Overall, I'm pretty happy with things. There are some things that I'm going to have to make notes about. Trying to get some of these cooler season crops in the ground a bit earlier. Who knows? The seasons are so variable, but we're experiencing more and more early on heat waves. You know, in the disadvantageous times of the year. When our cool season crops aren't fully developed, and then with the weed mats down, they re-radiate some of that heat from the black that they're absorbing the heat from. Fortunately, the area underneath these weed mats is really good. The soil stays a good cool temperature. The irrigation system doesn't convey hot water. Even if I add additional watering cycles during the daytime, the temperature of the water that comes out and hits the soil surface is actually just fine, probably 75, 80 degrees as opposed to 150 degrees, which would be if the drip tapes were on the surface of the ground. So overall, pretty happy. Most of the crops are doing really well. The flea beetles really did go after the eggplant, the pill bugs as well. But I can't be too disappointed given where we're at this point and how late we got started and all. So that's where we are this week. If you have any comments or questions, don't be afraid to put them below. I really appreciate that. If you found this video of value, please give us a thumbs up. Feel free to share it with your friends. And by all means, folks, take care. Take good care of yourselves. Eat healthy food and do some gardening. Plant a tree. Do something cool for yourself. Take care now. Bye-bye.